everybody, and welcome to another episode of BookGoodies author interview series of podcasts. I'm Deborah Carney, your host, and I'm joined today by children's illustrator and author, Richie Frieman. Hi, Richie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I can't wait to talk to you because I haven't interviewed any children's authors yet, and children's book authors, and I have a special place in my heart for illustrators, people who can draw, something I can't do. I'm a professional photographer, but I can't draw to save my life. So,
well, I'm happy to be on here. I really appreciate the time.
No problem. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let our folks know, a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Richie Frieman. I'm 33 from Baltimore, Maryland. This is actually my second children's picture book. I both wrote and illustrated. The current book is called Terple, Always Dream Bigger, and this is a follow-up to my 2008 release, Terple, The Sky Is Just the Start. And like I said, I wrote and illustrated the book. It's a rhyming goodnight book, Terple, Always Dream Bigger. And I really fell in love with the character when I first created them, about five or 6 years ago, and then finally put it to paper in 2008, and right when I was getting ready, right when we had my first child, and ironically, this came out as my wife was pregnant with our second child. So, children's books have always been a passion of mine. I've always wanted to do them ever since I was a child and growing up, and I've been an artist pretty much my entire life. And being able to actually put a book in a physical form and to put everything down that I've been thinking and working on for years, it's a great feeling to have, and I'm hoping that people will see that and enjoy it.
Now, are you a pen to paper artist, or are you a digital artist? You're able to do it right on the computer.
Well, I'm actually originally a pen and paper artist. My specialties are illustration and painting, but I'm also a professional graphic designer as well in the graphic arts. So I do both, really. And it really just depends on how I do, on what illustration I'm working on, and really which work of art. For Terple, Terple was hand-drawn, and then I put it onto the computer and made it easier for me to adapt colors and shading and different things like that. So in Terple book is all done on the computer, but first hand-drawn.
Nice. And I know other folks that have done it that way too. That's why I asked that. They had the hand drawn, and then they scanned it, and then they recreated it, and then they perfected it or whatever on the screen, because we can do that now.
Yeah.
If you screw something up on the paper, you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and it sounds. It's almost like a double test, because you take the time to draw and you scan it, and you have to go ahead and trace it, and then now you have it, and like you said, it is easy to change things when you're painting. I mean, I've painted pictures of Terple and had to I get to a certain spot and I have another idea, and I'm like, I'm going to scratch this and start over, and once the paint's put down, it's you got to paint over, and it takes a little bit of time, and depending on exactly what kind of paint you're using, whether it's oil or acrylics or water, it gets difficult. So the luxury of graphics is the instant flexibility to change things around. But to me, there really is nothing better than actually using paint and pencils.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately,
that's my true passion.
Unfortunately, we can't paint right on the computer so other people can see it.
Yeah, that's true.
We'd be going through a lot of laptops.
Yeah.
So now you said the inspiration was you had your first child and you were waiting for your second child to be born. And had the stories been percolating in your mind before that, or did they come from reading to your first child?
Well, actually, it's funny. I've always been working on stories in the back of my mind and putting them down on paper and putting them to the side and coming back to them when I felt more confident at the time. And I released Terple in 2008, and I actually had another children's book that I had already written, and I started drawing it, and I was trying to pursue for publication. And I thought that was going to be the one that I was going to run with. And then all of a sudden, I got an idea about Terple. Really started to fall in love with the character and started to fall in love with the with the rhyming and the meter that was going to follow the story. And I decided to actually go along with the Terple character instead. And I still have the other one. I just keep it. I used a couple of lines for Terple itself. But once I started to create Terple in general, I knew that I really just fell in love with being able to tell his story. And then after my first book was done, I just kept on taking notes and kept on taking notes. And, I have about 4 other books written now, but, that I have not published, and, I keep them on the shelf, waiting for the time when I feel comfortable to put another one out. But, and that basically little notes here and there and little things or little instances in life that came up that I thought would be a good part of the story was really what led me to really start going full speed with Terple Always Dream Bigger.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about Terple so our listeners can kind of get them an idea is what kind of a character, if you can describe in words what he looks like and...
Sure. Terple is a young, imaginative, courageous little turtle. He is always shown wearing a blue sweatshirt with Madras pants. If you ever know what Madras patchwork pants are. And so he's got quite a little fashion thing going on. But he's, we don't really say his age in the book. Size-wise, he's about the size of about a 4-year-old or 5-year-old. But he has that very childlike imagination to always dream outside the box, and the fact that everything is possible when you dream enough. And but I'd like to fill him up with a little bit more serious quotes that the parents I think will really enjoy too and take back. So he lives in the pond, and the first book was about him wanting to journey outside the pond and see the world around him. And this book right now is Terple Always Dream Bigger is a good night book, like I said, where we're seeing him in the room and we meet his parents, and we see the love that they have for him and the good night story they read to him as well. So it's he's been a lot of fun, and I've been able to adapt him to a lot of different other situations. So it's been a real joy.
That sounds beautiful. I don't have any little kids anymore, but it sounds like something that I would want to take a gaze at and read anyway. So that's really cool, and and that's how you got to get kids to like it. But you have a double-edged sword. You have to write for kids, but the shoppers are the parents.
Well, that's really how the children's book industry in general works. Yes, kids go to bookstores and they pick out the books they like, but obviously in the end it is the parents. The parents are the ones, paying the bills and making sure and taking care of the books. And the reason why, when I became a parent, my idea about children's writing in general totally changed. Mm-hmm. I was seeing the books that we were getting my daughter, that friends were getting our daughter, and what was available, and a lot of times I kind of felt like I was being robbed a little bit, and I say that not because of the price, I say that because of the content. And bear in mind, I'm not trying to say that that my character is the end-all, be-all of literature, but right. What I mean by that is that I felt that within 2 minutes my daughter was done the book, or we were done reading it to her, and I just paid a couple bucks or $10 to read this book, and it had a couple pretty pictures in there. But aside from that, it was lacking any other form of substance. And when I spoke with other parents and friends of ours and family members, the parents got a little tired of reading certain books. And it was something that I had to really think about when I was going to put my book out is, yes, I want children to enjoy my book, but I also want the parents to enjoy the book too, so they can actually, when they're reading a book, it's not a chore. It's more something that they enjoy.
Yeah,
when I read to my daughter, it's a fantastic time of the day that we can just have together. My wife is reading to her, and it's time that's very special time to me. And that actually was the reason why my second book, the one out now, is actually a good night book, because at the nighttime is always book time. I think in every family, right before you go to bed. And I wanted to leave a book for my daughter and now my son that's 2 months old, that to know that this is something as I'm talking to them when I wrote this book, and I'm thinking about them at all times whenever I do anything revolving my, everything in my day, especially my artwork. And they're the real reason why, and they're the main focus in everything I do. So I want them to be entertained, and I also want the parents to be able to look at the word, read the story, and think of the words as not just ink on a page, and that's my goal. Whether or not I achieve that all the time, I don't know, but I hope that's my mission at least.
Well, and that's a really good mission to have. And like you said, you're around other parents. So, for our listeners that may be writing children's books and maybe struggling a little bit, maybe you need to go to, toddler's playgroup or, somehow, I mean, people without children can write children's books, obviously, but maybe you need to immerse yourself in a family situation or be around one of your friends with kids when they're reading stories to their children at night, and then you can see the interaction and the, what makes the child smile, what makes the mother happy or the dad, whoever's reading, just kind of watch and be in that place. Because like you said, you were writing already, and you were buying books for your child, and you found a hole in what you were buying. And you decided to fill that hole with something that was higher quality. And whether it's higher quality in just your mind, it's going to be higher quality in other people's minds too.
Yeah, and I don't, and again, I don't want to take away from any other books. I mean, there are tremendous books out there. It's just a certain level of, I think that everybody knows, and this is not just with children's books. Children's books is my world, but even if you look at just other novels or nonfiction books, or even if it's just a card you get somebody, there's a certain line of work that goes into something, and I think you can see that pretty clear. So when I wanted to write a book, I could have gone two routes. I could have really put my entire heart and energy into something, or I could have checked out and put something in there with a couple goofy sayings and a goofy character and call it a day and see what people said. Mm-hmm. So I hope that people think that I took the higher road of the two. But again, it's all up to interpretation. At the end of the day, I write and I write and I draw really because it's what I enjoy. It's what I love to do, and I hope that, that my family and friends enjoy what I write. And if anything else aside from that is, again, just another icing on top. But I think whenever you're going to go ahead into any field, you just got to do your research. And I didn't want to copy anybody. I didn't want to be looked at as someone, as the such and such as someone else. And I didn't want to be able to create, I didn't want to have to, at the end of the day, come up with a character I think is fantastic and find out there's another one out there just like him.
Right.
Or her. And so that was one of my fears too. So I really had to do some research, and I think that's just the general actions of any kind of writer.
Well, and that's a really good point, because if you read a book and you like it, and then you strive to do something that's the same thing, you're not filling a new need. You're just you're copying the idea and making it your own, turning it into your own work. And instead, what you're doing is what writers should do, which is do your research and see what's out there and do something different. Don't be the same big purple bear, or I don't even remember what blue was. Yeah. Don't try to be true. Blue's Clues all over again, Just make your own character, and, you've got something in your own head that's different from everybody else's.
Yeah, and that was my goal. I didn't, Terple really came from a part of me, and trying to figure out what he was going to be in the physical was just something that I could do personally to make sure that there wasn't anybody out there that looked like him. I mean, let's be honest, there are turtles in children's literature, there are frogs, there are bears, there are dogs. I mean, there's only so many physical, even aliens, there's only so much things you can come up with. Just as long as they're different. I mean, it's like saying that there's no detectives in fiction or anything, only one.
Right.
So you have to really, it's okay to do something that is somewhat that kids like, but just add your own twist to it, make it your own. And I think that's kind of what makes other books stand out.
Now, you said that you had been writing, and then Terple came to you like after you already started writing. When you got the idea for Terple, did the illustrations come first, or did the words come first?
The words came first, and it was weird. It was almost became almost an obsessive act, really. It was, a couple lines would come to me, and, because Terple, my books rhyme, so a lot of times I'm starting to think in rhyme, and I'm starting to, put words together. So I look at it really as like a puzzle, and I had the overall design, and, written down of what I wanted. I wanted the book to flow a certain way, and this is how it was going to end. But words would just come, things would come to me, or I'd see something. I'd watch my child, or I'd watch, be walking down the street or something, and I would have to write it down. I mean, it got to a point really where I was pulling over the side of the road to write something down on a piece of paper. I would, when I was walking my dog, I would type things on my phone. I mean, this is just, it's how I do things. I don't necessarily recommend it or anything, but it was quite, all consuming. But that's just how I operate. I am extremely terrified about thinking about something and then forgetting it the next day. And I think that I just think about all famous lines that are in every single movie, or every single quote from a TV show, that if someone forgot to write that down, that would totally change the entire scope of the piece.
Yeah.
So to me, that just drives me nuts, worrying that might happen. So I do whatever I can to write it down. So once I started writing it down, again, it was like a puzzle, and I had him in mind. And when I wanted to make him wear mattress pants, I love mattress pants. I think they're the coolest things in the world. So I thought that'd be a really fun thing to do, and make them a little hip, and the sweatshirt was cozy, and every little kid, you see them walking around, all little kids always love wearing, hoodies and jackets and sweatshirts or zip-ups, so something that the kids would like too. And they seem to really like his pants. That seems to be a big hit. That really started to come over time, but the words came first.
Well, and there was, and that's why I asked, because, I'm a professional photographer. Like I said, I can't draw worth a darn, but I can take a bunch of pictures, and then I can string them together and create a story out of them. But I like that you wrote the words first, and I have to tell you that up until today, with my interviews, no one admitted to writing while, pulling the car over and writing stuff down. And earlier today, I had a woman who told me that she took her laptop everywhere. She's a mom of 3, preteens and teens, and she's always on the go. So she says she takes her laptop everywhere, and she can just open it up and start writing. And I'm like, well, that doesn't fit. Writers are people who can't only, they can only write sitting at their desk, and, they can only do it if they're not concentrating on it and, isolating themselves from the world. How can you write? And I guess in our new society, if you want to call it that, when you get an idea, like you said, write it down, pull over to the side of the road, talk into your telephone or type into your telephone, just enough words that you can remember it when you get home and be able to put it in the computer.
Yeah, and I definitely make time for things. I definitely have a certain time I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write, I'm going to draw, I'm going to do research, whatever it may be. But if something comes to me, I pretty much stop whatever it is I'm doing, wherever I am, to make sure I can jot it down. Even if it's just a word or two, or a quick sketch of something, I'll do that as well, just so I know mentally what that means to me. It's, putting a little ribbon on your finger to remind yourself to do something later. Yep. To me, it might be a scribble scrabble, but I know exactly what that is, and I know what I mean. So when I get home, I can make sense of it. So, that was just the way I could do things. I saw no other way to work without doing it at that moment. So sometimes it was very inconvenient, but it had to be done. So that's the only way I can look at it.
Right. Obviously we don't want you cutting across 3 lanes of traffic to pull over at the side and write down a sentence.
I don't recommend that.
I don't recommend that, but now tell me how you got published. You're traditionally published, and what was your process that you went through to get published, and why did you choose the traditional route instead of independently?
Well, the first book that I put out was independently published. I mean, I've been trying to get published for years and years. It just wasn't happening. And, even working with agents is a very, very hard thing to do. And I had a couple here and there, but it just wasn't really working out for me. And when I was working with this book. I had the book, and I'm actually I'm also a manners and etiquette columnist for quickanddirtytips.com. I'm known as the modern manners guy, and that's for Macmillan Publishing. And it wasn't even a way to get into Macmillan Publishing. They're the biggest guys in the world.
Right.
But I didn't go to them. And it wasn't a so when I wanted to put this out, some colleagues of mine were putting together a group, and I was working with them, and it was small, but it was worth a shot. And I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that if we worked hard, we could market it, we could sell it. And, you know, the publishing world is kind of funky that way. Things nowadays, if you have the ability or you have the know-how to get certain things done, big or small, if you believe in the work, that's the end all of it. It's just the way it's the way the music industry is now. It's the way a lot of other entertainment industries are, where the little gems can kind of rise to the top if you really work hard at it. Granted, we're not where we want to be. You know, we hope that everybody will enjoy the story all over the place. But I would rather start small with people I know and people I enjoy than kind of get lost in the herd and not really be able to speak my own voice.
Yep, that would be that's one of the recurring themes. Also, is that. You know, even as far as publishing houses will buy up manuscripts that they never plan to publish just because they're similar to something that they already have in the pipeline, and they don't want the competition. So, you know,
and mainstream you know, large publishing houses, again, I can't say I think they're all fantastic. I have nothing negative to say of them whatsoever. I think that if you're able to work with large publishing houses and they'll pick you up, I mean, it's a lot easier. It definitely is. And even running for Macmillan Publishing, they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. You know, and everybody that I've worked with has been fantastic. But it was one of those things where wherever I was going to go get published. And again, I mean, you know, when the colleagues of mine and we got together, this was seeming to be the best route, and I didn't want to wait. I was very impatient. I am very impatient. So working with other people that I didn't know, things just took longer. So here it was. I had a smaller group. We were still going to put out a book. We were still going to sell a book. We were still going to market a book. And in the end, it's doing the same exact thing. So that's why it worked out this way for me. But again, you know, large or small publishing houses, it really comes down to what you want to put out. If the quality's good, then that's what makes good company.
Yep. And now your second book is going to be published the same way or differently?
Well, no, the first book I put out independently.
Right.
I went because I was, you know, I was much younger, and I was very green, and I wanted, but I was very eager. Okay. And I learned as I went. But this one was the one that we worked with colleagues of mine to put together a group.
Okay, awesome. And then now that you've, you decided how to publish, and then especially the book that you indie published, what were some of the things you did to market the book? Because, you know, you get to do the fun stuff, you know, the writing and the illustrating, and then you're all done, and now you have to market the book. Yeah,
marketing's actually, I really enjoy marketing. I have a marketing background as well, so it's something that I do enjoy doing. But there was also, I realized that I would get the most results out of doing things that I enjoyed. For Terple, when I decided to put out this book, Always Dream Bigger, I made a pact to myself, and I made it as public as anybody wanted to listen, that I was going to donate a portion of the profits every month to a different charity, and I've been able to do that so far, and I'll keep doing that for the life of everything I do at Terple, for Terple's books. And, you know, I realized that, you know, you can look at it as marketing, but there's also a part where, you know, I work with charities to let them know what I'm doing, and we don't only just say, look, tell your people about my book, and we're going to donate money to you at the end of the month. That's really kind of the way I check me out. We work with charities to spread their words. We go and read books to the kids. We help out when we can, and we attend events. We donate whatever we can when we can, and we're really joining partnerships with other people around our community, and that's just not in my immediate community, but really across the globe, and that's what we're trying to do. But it was really a way of allowing me to get out in front of people that I didn't know before, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of a lot of writers and a lot of artists get kind of shy, and I totally understand that, but sitting in your house and sitting behind your computer all day is really not going to get anybody to notice you. You really have to get yourself out there and be willing to speak to people and be willing to talk to people, and that's kind of the best way. Let them know who you are, and I think that's something that if you're willing to take that leap, people really appreciate your time.
Well, and I love that you're doing that because, like you said, if you just say, "Oh, I'm going to give money to a charity," and then you cut them a check, you're still not personally involved, and people will be like, "Oh, okay, he's just another guy giving some money to charities." But when you do actually, like you said, you get out there, you volunteer, you do readings, you meet the people, and you get the books in their hands, that is actually a wonderful change and a way to take it up a notch in a way that is, you're basically paying it forward. Like you're not even banking on getting book sales from it. You're just doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. And in doing so, people will look at your book and tell their friends and say, "Hey, this guy did this, and this book is really cool. You should get it. I think your kids will enjoy it." So you've hit upon something that maybe other authors may have thought about. They have charities they support, but didn't really take it to that next level.
Well, yeah, but I agree, and I really appreciate you saying that, because that's what I want to do. I mean, it's nothing that I'm not making millions and millions of dollars off this book by any means, and kudos to those that are. But I think that regardless of, even if that was the situation for me one day, being able to give something back in general, I think is somewhat of a responsibility for artists, and I think in any way, shape, or form. And I think that and you'd be surprised how appreciative people are, even if it's something small or if it's something larger. But I always worked with the charities that were willing to work with me. It wasn't something that I wanted to look as a burden for them, like, "Oh, here comes another guy trying to come in and, use our name and get big," and stuff like that. When, we work really hard with our charities to let them know that, look, we're your guys for this month. You tell us what you want to do. We'll send it out as many times as you want. We'll tweet, we'll post, I'll talk about interviews, whatever you want me to do. So it was, it's been a lot of fun, and I really have enjoyed every part of reaching out to people.
Well, and there you go. We're all, writers and artists are creative people, and we sometimes get stuck in our heads with our marketing ideas, and you came up with a perfect marketing idea that fits in with your own personal philosophy and fits in with your book style and helps other people at the same time. And I don't want to beat it to death, but I want our listeners to realize that, think about the things that you're doing already that you could enhance by, bringing your work to them, whether it's your art or whether it's your writing or your photography or whatever. What is there that you can do for the charities you support or for the churches or for whatever, and see if there's some kind of synergy that you can build. I mean, obviously, if you're 50 Shades of Grey, you're not going to take them to the church group. Be cognizant, but see if there's a way that you can expand your presence and get out of your comfort zone by going out and being with groups of people that really could use your time and energy. And it doesn't have to be a charity. It can be a local youth group. It can be whatever, help some kids put on a play, do just something within your community.
Yeah, and I think that everybody, you'd be surprised what you can find if you really just start to think about what you enjoy doing, what other causes are maybe out there you can associate with. And I don't want to burden every writer with saying that you have to go ahead and donate your money or donate your time, whatever it is, but you'd be surprised what people will be thankful for, and when you put a smile on somebody's face for taking notice in what they're doing, it's tremendous. And so, and let's face it, I don't care what any artist will tell you or any writer. You do work to entertain people. Period. You do it yes, you do it for yourself. I mean, I would still tell my daughter stories, and I draw my daughter pictures that I never publish and I never show anybody else. But I didn't do the process of Terple to be quiet about it. That would have been a waste of my time. I mean, if I wanted to keep it in my house, that's fine, but I took the notion to put this out in people's hands, so why would I want to back off and act like it's no big deal that it's out there? I mean, I want people to read the book and to enjoy it, and that's part of the job as an artist. If you don't want anybody to see it, then don't go on stage and don't go in a gallery and don't go on the radio or don't go on TV. But if you're willing to do that part, I think there's a follow-up responsibility regarding how you reach out to people.
That's perfect. I was just going to say, so what is, one piece of advice you would give someone? Maybe let's go back to the writing process. So, what is one piece of advice you would give someone that's getting started? And from your unique perspective as an illustrator that might be considering doing an illustrated book.
Well, I think that one is absolutely never stop. I mean, the literary world is a jungle of madness and rejection and criticism. I mean, it's really the art world in general too. And I'm not even trying to be sarcastic. I think anybody that's ever experienced trying to get their work out there is not an easy thing, and rejection is absolutely a part of it. But I've met writers and artists that they've been rejected, and so they give up. But it's sitting there in their house or in their lap or on their computer, and it's just sitting there. And I'm like, well, just keep plugging at it. Just keep sending it out. Keep talking to people. I mean, any person that's tried to get an agent in this life has known that it is. I think it's 0.001% of the world has ever nailed it on the first maybe 5 or 10 times. Most people are hitting the double, triple digits, and that's just a part of the first level process of how things work on the bigger scheme. But to get published or to get an agent or to get in a gallery or to see your work outside, being told no or that this is not for me or this is never going to work out for you is, it's about as common as every day. I mean, you just have to get used to that part and understand that's the way it is, but never stop doing it. That is just defeats the purpose of really doing something that you enjoy, because someone else doesn't like it. It's not really going to be, it should not be the reason why you stop doing something.
And that's a great point, because, we all know the stories about the famous authors who were all rejected, the first times around, Stephen King, J.K. Rowling, some of the other folks that were rejected. And I can't remember who it was, but I also remember that there was a very famous writer who was quite well published, and he wrote something under a pen name and, submitted it, and it got rejected. And, it's like when he let people know what his real name was, they were like, oh, we're sorry, we'll put it out right now, And it's like, wait a minute, if you didn't like it under this pen name, why do you suddenly like it with my name attached to it? So.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, there's the same reason why, the cast of the Jersey Shores get books published, but other people who have been writing for years can't. I mean, there's an obvious reason why certain books get published and certain don't, and that's somewhat to be a business decision and somewhat to be what your personal taste is. So, but that is just that's a good example of really how the market works and how the market relates to writers and seeing their work. But it doesn't rejection. It doesn't really mean the end all be all. I have been rejected hundreds and hundreds. If I were to do a Google search in my own Gmail account for the word query, I mean, I would have thousands and thousands of emails with nothing that went nowhere. So I think that's just part of the process people have to understand and be okay with it. And it's incredibly, it hurts to hear people say, look, it's just not for me and it's just not my thing. But, that's not the end all. I don't think anybody has ever nailed it the first time out the gate.
No, I don't think so. And if they did, it was by some stroke of genius that they happened to know the head of the company or something.
Yeah.
Just, in the real world, things take time. And also, I know that a lot of folks have mentioned that throughout the rejection process that they've, not all the rejections were the standard form letters, and that they learned, something that they needed to do based on some of the rejection letters that gave them, a little nugget of advice or a little piece of encouragement. Like you said, this isn't for us, but or, this isn't for us, and then you think in your mind, well, why isn't it for them? What would I need to change to make it be for them? So, the rejection process doesn't have to be looked at as such a negative thing. It can be, it can be your way of making sure you're true to your book, and decide if it being rejected means you need to change it in some way. And if it means you need to change it in some way, is it a way that you can live with? Or do you need to keep it the way it is, whether anybody will publish it or not?
And that's true, and I think that that's a decision you have to make. And I think that it's, artists are very stubborn. We see things a certain way, the way we created them, that's the way they should be, and I agree with that. But I think that if there's a certain level of ego that you need to get over and realize if somebody's with you that's willing to make your work better, or collaborate, or help you out, and make a good piece, you have to accept that, or at least investigate that. I mean, if somebody were to come to me and be like, "Look, Richie, we'll give you a movie deal for Terple. We're going to get every theater in the entire world, but we're going to make them, a purple elephant that has, 5 tails." And it doesn't. I bet to me that would just be, well, it's not my character. That's right. Totally different, But if they say, well, let's make them a little bit taller, whatever, I don't care. There's certain give and takes you have to do, and there's a certain level of ego you have to let go of. I think whichever form of work you're going to do, if someone takes an interest, to at least hear out certain views, and then again, it's up to you at the end of the day. You can easily pass. You can easily accept it however you like, but you'd be surprised if you just let the little door open for some advice or some thought. You'd be surprised what happens.
Yeah. And now the other thing that I just thought of is I ask a lot of authors about their editing process, because there's 99% of them tell me that they go to an outside editor. But when you're working on an illustrated book, what's the process involved in editing? Do you have a professional editor that looks over your books, or are you pretty sure when they're done that there's no? If you're doing rhyming, it's pretty easy to not need editing. Is what I'm leaning towards. Is, do you need editing, or did you use an editor at all?
No, I absolutely used a professional editor. Okay. I used somebody that was very well qualified, somebody that had written for a long time, and somebody that I trusted. And again, actually, somebody that wasn't in the children's book industry. I wanted them to. Their work was more nonfiction and more journalist based, and I wanted that aspect really just to check to make sure, as an outsider of children's books, how does this make sense to you? And the feedback and the editorial comments I got were fantastic, and it went back and forth, and there were some times where, I said, well, look, when you're reading this, to me, it reads like, the beat, and this, and that's how I read it. And then when they looked at it and they said, okay, when I see it that way, leaving this word or leaving this plural, this makes sense. And that was okay. So it was a very positive give and take, and it was a very good way to look at how to approach my work. But I wanted to always to make sure that at the end of the day, I had other expertise outside of my own grasp that I could lean on to say, what are your thoughts, and give me your take.
And I think that's really important. We discuss a lot about editors, and like I said, only about 1% edit themselves and don't use an outside editor. Do you also use beta readers? That's a word I just learned.
No, actually, no, I don't. I only use the only editorial I use are a colleague of mine that I trusted with the work.
Right.
That's about as far as the editorial process I do.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been a great interview. I love talking to you as an artist and as a writer. Not that writers aren't artists. It's just a different kind of art. I catch myself in these little things where I don't want to get myself in trouble. Do you have any parting thoughts you would give someone that's thinking about going down the road of creating a children's book?
Well, I think that for one, keep writing down your ideas. Again, don't take my advice about swerving off the side of the road. I don't recommend that. But I think that is your own method. But understand that in this industry is not it's not easy, it's not enjoyable at all the times. But if it's something that you truly like in any other job or career in your life, there are certain steps you have to take, and nothing is overnight. And it's a long process. But there are a lot of communities out there for different forms of writing and different forms of art that people talk, and there's forums, and if you go on Facebook or LinkedIn, different pages and different groups you can join that people are sharing their experiences. And I made a ton of mistakes, and I still do to this day. And but each one I tend to learn something new about what happened, and that's probably the best way, is just talking to other people out there and finding out really what people are, the correct way to either submit work to somebody. That's a really quick way to get rejected, just by not following the right guidelines. I've had that happen to myself too. But and just finding out, treating your work as professional, and making sure that you do everything the proper way to make sure that people will look at you as a professional, but also just be willing to accept things that may need to be adjusted, and also just really join the community that you're in. And you'd be surprised at the people you can meet and all the different things you can learn that way.
That's awesome advice. Well, Richie, once again, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. Can you, a lot of people listen to our podcasts via iTunes and not necessarily will see the show notes. So can you tell us where people can find you on the internet?
Yes, you can find me at www.richiefrieman.com. That's RICHIE, F as in Frank, RIEMAN.com. And you can also just Google the word Terple, T as in Tom, ERPLE. And please connect with me. Find me on Twitter as well, at Richie Frieman. And I look forward to hearing from everybody.
Yep, we all also like to encourage all of you that are out there listening to please stop by BookGoodies.com and do a search for Richie Frieman or for Terple, and I'm sure we'll show up in the search results on the BookGoodies site. And leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. I'd be especially interested. And like I said, I have no kids, and I'm going to go get the book because it just sounds fascinating to me. And I like a well illustrated rhyming book. You can also follow BookGoodies on Twitter, twitter.com/BookGoodies. That's with an IES. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/BookGoodies. And we would like to thank geekcast.fm for hosting all of our podcasts. And you can find me personally. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Loxley, LOXLY. And you can find my own personal website is deborahcarney.com. But again, we really want you to go to bookgoodies.com and leave us some comments on the podcast so we know that you enjoyed it and that you want us to keep doing these. And thanks everybody for listening. Keep writing and have a great day.
Thank you.